been very keen for all of his cabinet to be out and about, on the ground, meeting people, meeting local businesses, finding out what they want from the government, finding out what their views are on their government elections. So that's why I'm here, and also to support Paul, who I think is a fantastic
One of the biggest problems, as you heard, that we face here in Worcester Park is the traffic issue. What can be done to help fix that?
Yeah, I do. It's incredible how much transport impacts on the economy and the local community. I used to be a transport minister, but I find even though I moved on to a different role, people always ask me about transport. I mean, I think this government is investing significant amounts in our railways and in our road networks. In terms of the actual local solutions, it's difficult for me to be able to be precise about what they should be, but I know the Mayor takes very seriously the importance of ensuring that we have good traffic flow in London. He sort of abandoned the anti-car approach of some of his predecessors. We've got to get that balance. We've got to give people high-quality rail services so that public transport is a good alternative. We also need to invest in improving our road network, particularly in bottlenecks that cause real problems.
What would be the one thing you would change here to make it a more sort of vibrant high street? I think if you sort of...
Traffic is always a problem,
Yeah.
and one of the things we discussed in the meetings a few weeks ago, I didn't realise that there were actually corridor committees, and I said we have this huge problem at the bottom of the high street with the bridge. Why doesn't somebody look at a long-term project to get rid of this bridge or to do something about it? And they said, well, there is a corridor committee, which is Kingston, Sutton, who look at this, because this is a corridor.
Yes.
It's from the A24 down to the A3. And at any time of the day, it's not too bad today, but it's the traffic in the high street is our biggest problem. Now, I understand if we make this a fast road, then the traffic's not even going to realise they've passed through Worcester Park. But I think we should be looking at a long-term solution to this problem. I mean, the Ewell bypass is a dual carriageway. Maybe the traffic should be directed that way to get onto the A3, I don't know. Well, yes, it is. But I mean, there must be a long-term goal, objective to stop this becoming such a bottleneck.
Yeah, it's trying to open it up, isn't it? I mean, I was chatting to someone down the other end, a resident down there, and he was saying about how there's a gate across a sort of like way that could be made into a road down in which residents would hate it, of course.
Yes,
So this is why you.
But it has to be a long-term
so it gets another
project. It's always been like it, and it's not getting any better. And Worcester Park has got such a bad name just for traffic congestion.
It means the two big long roads at either end get a lot of rat running down it. We often get the residents always talking about the fact that people dash down the bed.
So what's the key thing you think is your sort of goal for improving the high street and bringing more trade in?
I think more of a better communication with the local council and more funding, and the funding that we do receive for the traders to have more input into how it is spent and everything. So I don't know if you're aware that we recently had OLF funding.
Yes, we were just talking about that on the way in actually.
There's quite a lot of money spent on the high street, but you wouldn't actually really think it. And the traders feel that it would have been better spent using local businesses to do the work and to improve the whole high street rather than just a section of it.
It was something I was saying to Tracy when we spoke on the phone, wasn't it? That, my point of view, I compare it to Sutton, where they spent £3 million in the same sort of project on a bigger scale, though. And you look at what the council spent their money on, and then you look at what businesses themselves are doing now. They've set up a business improvement district, and it's their own money, and they're directing how it's spent. I'll always trust businesses to know what their customers want, how to bring trade in, rather than a council and politicians in general, sort of thing. Have that sort of, hopefully I'll carry it on to, should I have a political career, into that sort of healthy cynicism of what politicians can
do. Local traders did have the opportunity to sit on the OFL.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And I sat on those committees, but I felt most of the decisions had actually been made before our committee meetings. Right. And there were one or two instances when money was spent and we thought perhaps it probably wasn't right for it to be spent in this way, but we had no choice. The decisions had been made before we were told.
Yeah, I think there is another round of OLF funding, hopefully. Yeah. And certainly in where I represent in Barnet, it was the traders that actually put together the bid to the OLF in the first place, which, and as you say, getting involved in an early stage.
So we've certainly had 3 successful bids as a borough. I'm not sure if there's a 4th. I don't know if Hackbridge has got it as well. So we've had 3 rounds.
They did say that there was a possibility of second, so they were hoping that if we were successful that we could do the other half of the high street. But
So the work that has been done has all been basically at the top of the high street and in Windsor Road and the entrance into Waitrose car park.
Yes.
We've got close to 20 empty shops in the high street here in Worcester Park. What's the government going to be doing to address those sorts of issues in places like this?
Well, in the autumn statement we announced help with business rates. We appreciate that the tax burden for small businesses and relieving it is very important. We've also announced that all small businesses will have an allowance for national insurance contributions, so they'll be £2,000 better off as a result of introducing an allowance for national insurance contributions. And we're scrapping national insurance employer contributions altogether for young workers. So in those ways we're doing our very best to help small businesses with their tax bills, and also we're trying to roll back some unnecessary red tape, and that's what the Prime Minister is talking about to the Federation of Small Businesses right now.
So
Another thing the government's sort of very keen to do is to reduce the taxes for smaller businesses. So
well, the rates changes in the budget in the autumn statement were
yes,
welcome,
and also the employer national insurance contributions that introducing the allowance for that for the first time, and also cutting it for young people to sort of eliminate national insurance for employer national insurance for businesses that employ young people earning over moderate salaries.
well, that would help because obviously come next year we have to do pensions for everyone, don't we?
Yes.
Small business, which doesn't help anything about. So, but no, any cuts or anything for the small businesses would be a help because the local high streets are struggling and independent retailers are struggling, and it would be a help if the councils and the government they actually took into account the local traders a little bit more than what they actually do.
So I know the government have sort of like given a bit of relief on small business rates. I know we were talking about the council saying that you can have a rate really holiday effectively, so you end up not paying your rates this year but you pay twice as much next year, which is might help with cash flow, but really in reality what small business can afford that. So
I actually had because we had a major refurbishment in Pets Place 2 years ago, and I actually went through the process of deferring my rates, and to be honest it was just so much red tape there, and for what we got back, and as you say we had to pay it the next year anyway, it wasn't worth all the hassle of doing it. We thought if we get our rates halved while the refurbishment was going on, and our refurbishment took the best part of a year for reasons with the landlord, it would have been a great help to us, but it was just so difficult to do it, and as I say we had to pay it back the next year, and you think really was that worth all the paperwork that went backwards and forwards, another set of forms to fill in, and of course it's nothing to do with Sutton, it has to go through the the BSO or something like that.
That's right.
That goes through another body,
locally.
so it was hassle, red tape.
Yes. Well, certainly the Prime Minister's talking about trying to get rid of some of that red tape.
I know
today.
he was on the radio this morning, I heard it,
yes.
Because he was also talking about, and I didn't know, and I just said to Tracy, and Tracy didn't know either, that they're cutting national insurance for small businesses for the first £2,000.
Yeah. So you basically you get an allowance. You'll be getting an allowance now from now on.
And when do we have to pay it back?
No, you don't have to pay it back at all. That's
no. I
tax
mean,
you don't pay.
it's worth looking into. That is because it does help, and we're all small businesses in the high street. I mean, okay, you've got Waitrose, Sainsbury's, Iceland. They can afford it. But we, anything.
Key driver though, isn't it? I mean, the theory is you sort of like, you're paying less than those kind of taxes that are effectively a penalty on taking jobs and taking more people on. you can do more business, you put more into the economy anyway, so it builds up in that way.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's
And of course, the pressure for a business like this is competing against online retailers, and if they're global businesses like Amazon, they may not be paying any tax at all, hardly. So that's another thing we're trying to. No, just a little bit of milk would be great. So we're trying to make sure that the bigger multinational businesses pay their fair share of tax, so it doesn't all fall on smaller businesses.
There was one point actually that Mark came up with last week that mentions you about the Cycle to Work scheme, about how you're losing out to Evans and Halfords, isn't it?
Yeah.
And these sort of things. So when big employers sign up, they sign up with one of the big chains.
Yeah.
Of course, it means that they've
Met
lost a. That was what I know.
Yeah,
you
Met
mentioned it,
Police,
isn't it? Yeah.
Met Police have signed up, and some of the NHS trusts and all that have signed up with Halfords and Evans, their own cycle scheme. So instead of using the cycle scheme for the local traders,
Yes.
Met Police, they now have to go to a big brand shop, and I know for a fact that we've lost out on that personally because we've got a number of police officers that come in here. And they would have bought their bikes from us, but the scheme wasn't, for the.
Yeah, that's a real pity.
Yeah, it's wrong.
Because that does bring get a lot of people on their bike. That scheme.
So, but then the government have tweaked it now as well, so it's beneficial, but it's not as beneficial as it was when it first came out.
Right.
Crossrail 2 is possibly planning to come through Worcester Park without stopping. We've submitted a 1,200 signature petition to the Mayor to get it to fall at Worcester Park instead of using it straight through. How do you think we might be able to ensure Worcester Park isn't forgotten?
Well, it sounds like you're doing the right thing. You're engaging community interests, engaging with the politicians. The reality is, Crossrail 2, if it does happen, is quite a long way down the track, so no decisions have been made finally about where it will stop. I think continuing to campaign and make sure the voice of Worcester Park is heard, by the decision makers is going to be very important.
Right.
I mean, it is so important to find a way to keep our local high streets flourishing, because they're not just economically important for jobs in the economy, but also for the local community.
I think we've got a good little high street here. I mean, we haven't got that many empty shops. There are some shops that are still owned, and obviously they're not let, but they're not on the market. Yes, we've got our fair share of charity shops, but I'd rather have charity shops than no shops. Sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. And do you have a sort of formal kind of town team? Because I know that in a lot of places they've got traders sitting with representatives from the community and sort of local churches and things like that, and the council.
No, but what we're hoping to do is Worcester Park Traders is kind of relogo it as our Worcester Park,
Yes.
and eventually get the community involved and have all the different local.
It's not just traders.
No.
Yeah.
We
I
want
think
it
we're
to be
bringing in-
schools and churches and doctors'
Groups and everything,
surgeries
yeah.
and things like that. Just for businesses and professional people. Not so much for residents, I don't think, but certainly for the professional people to sort of try and pull the high street together again.
I think those kind of initiatives can work very well.
Yeah, because Brendan was saying once before, like with the traders a long time ago, the banks and everything used to be involved, and now you can't get any of them to come to the meetings or anything.
No.
They used to be involved in the Christmas night and everything. So it's trying to get back to that type of thing where you can get everyone involved, and hopefully it will improve the feeling of the high street as well, because it's quite long.
Well, thank you very much for the tea,
Coming in especially.
and thanks for coming in especially to have a chat. It's been
Okay.
really helpful.
Good to see you.
Yes.
Thanks for coming.
Nice to
over.
meach you.
Good
Okay.
to meet you
Mark.
too.
All right.
Oh, no worries,
Really
Paul.
cool.
All right, see you soon.
Perfect.